Oh, good to see you, Erin.
You too. Thanks for inviting me here.
Yeah, awesome. So I just want to tell everyone a little bit about how you and I met, and I would love it if you could tell, maybe just speak to a little bit to your work in Nepal also with Participate. So Erin and I met in 2019. We took a trip to Nepal. Erin's been running these trips to Nepal for years now. And we had just a beautiful experience spending close. I spent 3 weeks in Nepal and got to volunteer and set up a medical camp. And Erin does amazing work with her organization Participate. And Erin, I'm gonna let you take over for a minute. Can you tell everyone a little bit more about yourself, a little bit more about Participate? I have a puppy barking in a crate upstairs. It's gonna drive me crazy, so I'll be right back.
Yeah, that was like quite the exercise in focus. So, yeah, like Marissa was saying, we all wear multiple hats, right? But one hat that I've been wearing for a long time is as the executive director and founder of this organization called Participate. We do rural healthcare in Nepal. So I've been traveling there since 2007 and working there since 2010, and really with the focus on plant medicine and bringing back helping to facilitate bringing back traditional plant medicine practices, and just being a support to the local health infrastructure of like remote villages that don't normally have access to high quality medicine. So it's been a hell of a journey, but yeah, we do these annual trips, and Dr. Marissa joined our last one before COVID hit in
Mhm.
2020.
I feel like we got so lucky that we got to travel right before COVID,
Yeah.
and just have this incredible experience. And Erin, was it 2014 that the earthquake happened in Nepal, that the really devastating earthquake?
That was 2015.
Oh, okay, okay. And
Mhm.
you were there. You were there
Yeah.
during that time, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I was living there and in the same village that Marissa and I went to visit. Yeah, and that was of course, yeah, a life-changing experience. I always say about it, like I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It's
Mhm.
one of those kind of things. But it really, yeah, I was in the village when the earthquake happened, and everything was completely devastated. 98% of the homes destroyed, and um, four people died and lots of injuries, and I was the only doctor. So it was like such an intense experience, and that was actually my primary job then. I was working full time uh, in the organization and in the work, and then all of a sudden I was in disaster relief and recovery, and it really just bonded me even more to that community. I'd been working with them for 6 or 7 years at that point, but like after you go through something like that with with people, then like you're in it for life. So I will be
Yeah.
forever committed to those people.
And I imagine they feel like family to you. I mean, they feel like family to me now after spending that time with them. Beautiful, wonderful people in that village.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, such an
So,
amazing place. Hmm. Yeah.
so Erin, I love talking to professionals like you and I who have kind of gone through the traditional training, and then a couple of years into practice they think, "Man, this isn't for me. Like I spent all this time studying, got this fancy degree, but I want to do deeper kind of soul work with people." And I find that you're one of those people who's kind of like living outside the box a little bit, and I love and respect that. I love and respect the work you're doing. So Dr. Erin, you stepped out of private practice and you have been running these self-marriage kind of trainings groups for a couple of years now, right?
Yeah. I started teaching self-marriage courses, I think in 2017. But like while I was still in practice, it was just something that was like on my heart and on my mind. I couldn't stop thinking about, and no matter what I tried to teach, I ended up teaching about self-marriage. So I just like started to formalize it. gave in to
That's
myself.
amazing. Yeah. And tell us a little bit more about the self-marriage process and this program. I love this idea because this is the deepest form of self-love, is marrying yourself. I think it's such a good concept. Tell us more about
Yeah.
that.
You know, like, and you were just saying, so my like journey into this kind of alternative practice, whatever it is, you know, like practicing differently. So, Dr. Marissa and I are both naturopathic physicians. We're trained to be primary care physicians, and you know that is not what we're doing today. But because this is really like part of it, like my self marriage journey, like self marriage is we kind of defined as a ceremony, a daily practice, and a lifelong commitment to living a life of love and commitment to yourself, you know? And really what that looks like in practice is following your dreams and expressing yourself for who you really are, and, you know, and creating a life that is reflective of who you really are, showing up more powerfully and authentically in your job and in your relationships and for yourself, you know. So the end results are these like kind of bold moves, you know. So I actually married myself at Burning Man in 2010, I think. And
Wow.
yeah, it was just like a little ceremony that somebody hosted for me. But it's like, so yeah, that's when I first got this idea, like, and in that context it was more like, what do you want in another, how can you provide that for yourself? And it was just like mind-blowing to me, that moment, like, oh yeah, I can be the source of everything that I want, you
I
know.
love
It
it.
was
Yeah.
so empowering. And so that really, it just kind of stuck with me through the years. And then as I was going through school, so I graduated from our program in 2014, and yeah, and that's when I kind of I met the teacher, Moshe Block, who he teaches this kind of mind body practice where I identify the mental emotional root of a physical or emotional ailment. You know, like, what is the current suffering? What is the original incident that it is attached to in your childhood? And then there's techniques to resolve and release that, and then physical symptoms or whatever the current suffering is then resolved. But anyway, like, so I'm saying that because I was set up on this path for primary care and the traditional whatever, and but I like listened to my desire for this like kind of out of the box, you know, woo stuff. I've really, a lot of my self-marriage journey has been just moving more towards the woo, letting it be okay that there's not, you know, the same kind of scientific evidence and proofs and mechanisms that I was used to demonstrate like efficacy or whatever, like listening to my intuition and my heart. So following that was really just a part of this path for me. And yeah, like I before I met him, I thought I was going to be like you know, living in Nepal and being a doctor in Nepal. And so by really allowing, that was like my gift, my support of myself. What would I have wanted a partner to be for me in that time? He or she would have wanted me to explore this little desire that I had, you know, to give space for me to try it out and, you know, and fail or love it or whatever, you know. So really just kind of thinking in that context, like, how can I be that person for myself, is like at the I don't know, the operational level of self-marriage, like how it works in my life now. Like, how can I be for myself that person that I would, you know, what I would want in an ideal partner, you know?
Wow, so many things that came to mind, and it's such I feel like for me, like, that has been my number one life lesson, is the self-love journey. And it hasn't really come to fruition, or you know, I'm still working on it. I think we're still working on it on a daily basis. I want to touch on a couple of things that you mentioned. You know, one of these being that, especially as women, your program is mostly for women, is that right?
Yeah. The self-marriage program that I run is women only. I do see men, like, one-on-one for a few brave men, but primarily women is who I'm serving.
Yeah, because I think in our culture, especially in America, women are raised and, we just fall into this trap of always caring for others. And I'm just speaking for myself, but it's something I see in my clients and my patients also. We're always serving others, making sure everyone is tended to and cared for before we care for ourselves. And so I think this is such a deep journey for many women to put themselves first.
Yeah, yeah, and this is, of course, I see so much of this in my like client base too, like everyone in service of everyone else. And there's something I've been coming up against actually, like in self-healing, because there's just this conversation, at least in my circles, going around about individual healing versus collective healing, and can we do both at once? And I think it's really important just to kind of have this broader view that self-healing is, yes, it is like I consider like self-healing and self-marriage, they're like the same in my mind, self-healing,
Okay.
self-love, self-marriage, they're just like, it's all the same work, um, and so it is like putting our own needs first and like spending time and energy investing in and exploring ourselves and our inner worlds, but it's not like wholly in service of us, of the one, of me. Like I do this work in, consciously or unconsciously to improve the way I relate to the world, to my partner, to my family, to my community, to freaking strangers, So like this work is collective work, healing the self. And I feel like that's really just important to keep in mind. But yeah, you're right. Like women, and this is culturally, like in our culture, that we are often, you know, come last. I hear so much like, I have a list a mile long and I'm not even on it. You got everyone else to take care of, and that often comes from from our childhood and whatever way, shape, or form that we had to put ourselves in to be loved and accepted and to feel like we belonged in our families, and often that meant taking on more responsibility, or being the happy, bright, shiny one, or excelling, or being the helper, or whatever it was. It can look a lot of different ways. But this is like I was talking about at the beginning, this suffering today, which people don't. Yeah, it can take a while for this. Like, yeah, I'm just a nice person. Like, I like to help everybody. It's who I am. Whenever you say that, it's who I am. It's just who I am. That's when you want to be like, wait a minute, like, is this who, if you're so tightly identified to being a helper, not that there's anything wrong with being a helper or being kind or generous and putting other people first. Of course, those are virtues and we want that in our community. But if you identify like, this is who I am, then that's like a tip off that you've got some attachment to this part of your personality that is likely pointing towards some suffering, that like is causing you some suffering by.
Absolutely. And Erin, these Tuesday sessions have been all about self-healing, plant medicine, healing trauma. When you talk about, the original incident, the thing that happened in childhood, whether it was war or a tornado or, your third grade math teacher who told you, you weren't very good at math and that stuck with you. How is that the same thing to trauma? Do you avoid using the word trauma? Is trauma charged for you? Like how do those things relate?
So what I use the word trauma or wound. I think maybe like a better way to, I don't know. It's not really that charged for me. Like I like the concept of big T and little T trauma, like the big T trauma being abuse and and outright physical or emotional harm, but then little t trauma being like, you know, my math teacher said something offhand to me, or my mom for me, even though she was, you know, meant no harm, I was in the same room or something like that, you know. But these are, I honestly think the words don't matter so much, you know, for me, like what it is important is that we all experience this. This is something that we all have in common. Some people get very particular about the semantics. So if that's a problem, then I say use the word wound, you know, like we're all like wounded in this way. But I think the main point is just to kind of equalize us all, and that this is our collective experience. There's not one of us that got through childhood without this, you know. It's just it's part of the cycle, you know. And there's kind of no escaping that. So for me, I kind of feel like call it whatever you want, but just knowing
it's like this is Earth School. Like, I think our souls knew what they were getting into when they came to Earth School. I think it's been said that Earth School is the most difficult incarnation in the whole universe. Like, we come here to learn, and we learn through suffering primarily. You know, another question for me is, I believe personally I've accessed my wounds through things like hypnotherapy, through using plant medicine, through using some of these things that drop me into my own subconscious. And that's when the wounds can come to the surface. You know, sometimes we're not conscious of the wounds. This is what I'm saying. And how do you help people in your groups become more conscious of their wounding? Because sometimes it's deeply, deeply unconscious. Well, this is, for me personally, so my training is in holistic counseling, this practice that it's just a technique that you want to know why it is that you are so triggered by your mom saying this thing to you, or why you can't stand it, why when your husband does that, or why this coworker makes your skin crawl. So just with this technique, which is just it's like a funnel, you know, starting with, it's a technique of asking open questions to then identify what it is. So that's how in my practice, that's how I use how I help clients to find it. But you're right, there's so many ways. And I guess, you know, I do a lot of inner child work too. You and I just collaborated on that workshop together and do that with clients. And sometimes when you're just like when you're in the work, you know, when you're committed to the path, then things are kind of revealed to you, you know, over time. Once you like are trusting your intuition and listening to your body, it's just like you're doing one thing and you're like, holy shit, you know, like I just realized that thing was totally about this, or I thought it was about this, and then this whole other thing is there. So like once you are in the space and committed to this path, and you know, in your body and your heart as opposed to your head, then I think that your subconscious is always trying to communicate these things to you. Even like, you know, when you're in like being triggered and you know, in fights with your family or your spouse or whatever, then those are still like ways that your subconscious mind is communicating with you, you know, through like kind of backwards, you know, detours and things like that. But so I guess once we listen. Yeah, so it sounds like awareness, just having like so much awareness around relationships, your body, you know, like you brought up, like I believe in the somatic experience, right? Like where in your body are you feeling this? You talked about skin crawling and things like that. I think once we just drop the illusion that everything's okay and start diving into our own healing work, that's where the magic happens. And you're right. If we're aware enough, we can catch the messages, whether they're coming from other people or just you know, through music or billboards or like whatever it is. I feel like we get the messages time and time again, and sometimes we ignore them and sometimes we listen to them. And, this is something that's so important, and probably a big part of your process with people is just becoming more and more aware of what's happening primarily in the body, but also in relationship with others.
Hmm. Yeah, one thing that, yeah, so much I've seen from my experience working with women, so much of the wisdom comes from the body. Like we can, in their description of how it feels in a certain way, like this felt suffocating, and like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, and like I couldn't breathe. And then once we get back to the incident that connects it to, we're using the same language. It felt suffocating, and like I couldn't breathe. I had the weight of the world against me, or I felt. If we're talking about a back pain, it felt constricting. Whatever it is, like it ends up like that's one, like your body is is a key part of the connection here between your mind and your heart. Your body is a really like useful tool to go through. But what I was going to say is in the practice of self-marriage, one thing that I think is different about the way that I teach it is through these practices. Because I'm like these moments when you're like, oh, it was because, my dad never like paid attention to me. He was like never in the home, or like, I didn't realize like I had this impossible task as a child to like raise my family and keep my mother sober, or like whatever your story is. Like you have these aha moments, but then you have to live your life and then how do you go about changing your life, right? So in the practice of self-marriage in the program that I teach, we go through 6 practices throughout the year: self-kindness, self-forgiveness, self-expression, self-protection. So that's like boundaries and inner child work, and self-honesty and self-trust. So like these 6 practices, I feel like have been really the key. That's like the practical aspect. So like how do you like once you see the root and are doing like the work to heal the emotional aspect and to shift the mental belief, like that's kind of like, that's really important inside work, but it has to be able to translate into changing your life.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. Erin, will you just run through those 6 once again? I want to take notes. I want to share those. When people want to get in touch with you and check out your group. Self-trust, self-honesty. What were the others?
Self-kindness, number 1. First practice everyone goes through is self-kindness. Like if we could just learn how to treat ourselves with kindness, like that, how many lives would that change? If your default state were kindness instead of self-deprecation, that's just such a huge change for so many people. So, and all this stuff can be learned, by the way. It's not like anything out of reach for anybody. Their skills and their practices, we just got to practice them. So yeah. Self-kindness, self-forgiveness,
okay.
Self-expression. Like there are tools that can support you to be able to speak your mind and to show up more yourself. It's like, because we can say it like, yeah, just what you really think, just go out there and say that, or like you know what you want to do, just go do it. But it's like not that easy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So self-expression, and then self-protection is the 4th practice. And in that one, we learn boundaries, how to set boundaries, what boundaries are. And then that's also where I teach inner child work, because my philosophy about boundaries, at least, there's different kinds of boundaries, but when you are like making a boundary against somebody that has harmed you or is like triggering or is toxic to you in some way, like then the boundary is to protect you so that you can heal. So heal the inner child, the child that's been wounded, the child that person is, continuing to harm. So you make the boundary to protect yourself while you heal. But then when you heal, like the goal is to have, in not like no boundaries, but to be open, to like be open-hearted, you know, and to be able to, like, yeah, you can choose to not have somebody in your life, but for their words, their actions to be able to wash through you instead of like swirling around and like stabbing you, you know? So to ultimately that's, so anyway, yeah, the practice of boundaries is kind of like, I see them as temporary and kind of like what I was talking about before, like with, we have to remember, I really like to hold this, like our healing is not just for us, it's for everybody that we relate with, right? Including the people, like our family is our family, you know? So it's just, it's a really personal choice. So if you're going to make a boundary to exclude someone, if you're ever going to let them back in, but I love it when that's a goal. I prefer it, you know, because then like, not to like that you have to have a relationship with them, but at least that they're not like blocked from you. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. And the last two practices are self-honesty, and that's when you learn shadow work.
Okay.
And really how to, yeah, be honest about what's going on inside for you, what you want, what you believe. And yeah, because that takes a lot of bravery to see oneself, you know?
It is a lot of bravery.
And self-trust is the final practice. I really like to design this so that people can spread their wings and fly, you know, and like after, when it's over, like really feel like they can go out in the world and like be a good wifey to themselves, you know? So yeah, self-trust is the last part. Like what's, you know, just trusting yourself to take the next step and that you can do this and that you're here for a reason. And yeah, and then self-marriage. There's a ceremony after that.
Yeah. So is this a year-long program, or is this a 6-month kind of cycle that you go through? Like how if someone were to jump in, like where would they start? Or can you tell us a little bit more about the program?
Yeah, it's a year-long program. It's a year-long program because I'm really a believer that if you want to make big lasting change in your life, you need a container in which to do that. I mean, not everybody, you know, like this program isn't for everybody, but if you want to if you really want to make big change, then yeah, having accountability, community, like trauma or wound healing should be witnessed and held, you know? It's not something, I mean, that I think like, you can do it on your own, but best in community, you know? And I just found that it takes time and better to go slowly and surely and sustainably than to, you know, rip a Band-Aid off. But yeah, and everyone starts in the same place, and that's with self-kindness. And the way my program works, you know, you can kind of start anytime, join in the group. But yeah, self-kindness is a foundational practice, and then we kind of go through the other ones one by one. And yeah, there's of course like a one-on-one component with me and an amazing little community of women. It's so cool. Yeah, it's like, it's also, I'm practicing what I preach in a way, like by creating this program, because it's like what was in me, you know, what like, yeah. And it definitely took and continues to take a lot of like bravery and courage to put something new, like a new idea like this out there. But now that it exists, it's pretty dope.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it. I mean, it just sounds so amazing, and I'm so excited to take part in it tomorrow. We're doing a vision board workshop in her group. So I love that you have so many activities and you're so active. So Erin's group is on Facebook. And is it true that anyone can join the group? Not necessarily your program, but
yeah, and it's free. It's free for all women or female identifying people.
Okay, good. So anyone watching this replay or live right now, you can go on Facebook. Erin, what is your group called? How can people get in touch with you?
Well, if you're on Instagram, you can just follow me on Instagram, or the link in my bio is to the Facebook group. It's called Heart Healing Sisterhood.
Heart
Yeah,
Healing.
it's amazing. Heart
Okay.
Healing Sisterhood. Or you can look it up on Facebook. It's such a sweet little community, and we have there's like it's action packed all the time in there. Like I go on live a couple times a week, and we have guests every week. There's a show every Thursday, and big events. We have a big event coming up next month, like my really self-marriage 101, the initiation. It's called Become the One for You, like a 5-day challenge event. So yeah, I would love it if I saw some of your faces over there later.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So Erin, this came up. My good friend texted me last night. She works in a like trauma recovery center in Arizona, and one of her teachers brought this information to her. This author talks about and writes about having a funeral for your wounds, for your trauma, like creating ceremony about putting these things to rest, like they no longer exist, and then letting yourself build a new you, kind of on top of that burial ground, on top of putting those things to rest. And I just thought that kind of like ties into your work so beautifully. With ceremony, I love that you bring ritual and ceremony to your practices. I feel like this is so important. But I thought, wow, like to have a ceremony, a burial ceremony, a funeral for all of the stuff that you don't want to take with you any longer into this life. Like if we truly want to be someone else, I feel like we have to lay that to rest. I feel like there's an integration piece, that's important, especially when we do the shadow work. But I thought, wow, like I had never even considered, having an actual ceremony for my wounds. Just wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, I think it's really important and impactful for people, to really, to have a ritual, something around like saying this is over, or like this is a new part in your life, and that's like, I think for those of us that are healers out there, it's such a privilege to be with people and just to remember that, that like you are here facilitating this experience for for your clients. And it can be at any moment, like I just posted today, actually, like my post was, there's no reason today can't be the best day of your life,
Yeah, I love that.
And like just to really like have the space, create it for yourself, or to be in a community that creates this for you. Like I can let this go, and it's up to each individual person, like when that time is, when you're ready. Like this part of my life is over, this part of my life is done, and let it go, and whatever. I really like that, but and then of course, like it may come back in some different way later. You might stumble across it later. But then, you're a different person, and it's a different, it's a different wound at that point. You can do a different kind of ceremony with it. Or I don't know, maybe this like cord cutting, maybe let it go really forever. But I think I might steal that idea.
I think that's why I brought it up. I thought it would go perfectly with your offering and your program. And what comes up for me, what that brings to mind is how sometimes people's suffering defines them in such a way that they don't know who they would be without that suffering. You know what I'm saying? Like it serves them to hold on to it, to be the victim, right? And I'm wondering, like, do you address that in each one of your kind of like modules, or is there one that addresses it over the others, like how we hold on to these things because it gives us some sense of purpose?
Yes. Yeah. In self-forgiveness, that's definitely like there is, self-forgiveness. We identify with these, it's like an attachment to this state of like blame and self-criticism or whatever for some reason, like that usually it's the belief people have that they are served in some way by beating themselves up, like it's a negative motivator. Or if they forgave themselves, then they would make the same mistake again. So often we just have these like nonsensical ideas that like cause us to grasp. But I think what you might be talking about is more like this attachment. We just and I think in some ways it doesn't even need to be so complicated. We just become attached to states that we're comfortable in, you know,
Yeah.
because the unknown is scary, and the next big thing is maybe quite a big leap, you know. So and yeah, we've just, like we were talking about earlier, the helper. I am a helper. I am a responsible person. I am a hard worker, you know, or like you said, like in this state, I know some people in the state, like I am, everyone's always out to get me, you know, this world isn't safe. No one has my back. You know, in the same way, like we can grasp onto these as part of our identities. And I think, yeah, we build our lives to reinforce that truth, unfortunately. And really, well, my approach really is helping people. It's real, the power is this holistic counseling, right? And like really trying to help people see that that is not their identity. And I think really you don't need like some big deep holistic counseling session to know that necessarily. Like we all know, like right now, you and me, anyone that's watching live or on replay, that we are like infinite souls, you know, like beings of love and light, or however you describe it, you know. We're not like victims that everyone is trying to beat up. Like I think a part of us, if we just like allow it, like knows who we really are. But it's just so easy to get like sucked up into, I don't know, this world of illusion and
And victimhood. Yeah.
all these ideas about what the world is doing to us, you know. But yeah, I don't know. It's complicated also because we are like human beings who have actual impacts on each other. So yeah, but in the end, I guess it can, this like identification with these different states, I think mostly is just a out of habit. It's just like, yeah, it's like a bad habit that can be broken, honestly.
And you're the one to guide people, right? Like I love what you're doing. Yeah. And then Erin, I have two questions I like to ask each one of my guests. You know, when we talk about deep healing, a lot of the resistance I get from people is, well, I'm afraid of what's going to come up. And this is during hypnosis or using plant medicine, or I'm sure enrolling in a program like yours where you know stuff is going to come up, especially people who have had big T trauma, we'll call it. And for me, what I say is, look, you've got a safe space. Like whatever it is, seek out a safe space, someone safe who can help you move through these things and process them. Do you have any other words of wisdom, as my puppy runs circles in the background here? He's just going nuts. What would you say to someone who says, I'm afraid of what's going to come up if I join your program?
Yeah. So we're all afraid of the unknown, you know? And what I like to, I'm afraid too of what, you know, of lots of things in my life, you know? But the question is, like, this is our one precious life, you know? What's going to happen? Where are you going to be? What's your life going to look like if you don't face who you really are?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen. Your life is going to be
miserable.
Or, you know, you'll coast. And if you're cool to like accept that fate, to be in like cruise control, then this isn't the right program for you, you know?
Right.
But like if you want that change, it's just like part of the process. We're all scared. We all have to do it. And yeah, I love that. You got to find somebody that you trust. You got to find somebody that you trust, with whoever it is, and that you can feel safe with. And yeah. And then once you've found that and you're ready to change your life, you know, to have a different life, then it's go time, you know. But I think for some people, they just need to teeter on the edge for a while, and you know, go back and say, okay, I'm not ready for that, but then and live the same life and get really tired of it. You got to have the courage and the fuel to overcome the fear, because it's real, you know.
Yeah. Good. All right. Good. Good. I like that. I like that. That it's a Mary Oliver quote, right? Like, what are you going to do with this one precious life? Or I don't know who said that, but it takes a lot of bravery, I feel, to like hop into this work and to do the work. The new book that just came out, Nicole LePera, called I think it's called How to Do the Work. Have you seen this book? I think she made the #1 spot in the New York Times bestseller for like, I think self-help books. So I feel like more and more of us are coming up and stepping out as leaders and as healers, like you said, like helping people take the first steps to, you know, go on the healing journey. I feel like it's happening more and more, and we're waking up. And my last question for you, and what I love to ask people, what are your hopes and dreams for humanity at this time in our lives and in our collective evolution? Are you hopeful?
Yeah, I'm hopeful. Okay, so I'm kind of like a next step gal, you know, before I can see the like big grand whatever thing, but I see the next step, and it's really just, I would love to see us not demonize each other so much. There's just so much polarization and divide, and a lot of like grasping on to being right and being righteous on both sides, on all sides, whatever. So I would just love to see more compassion, and like starting from the place, there's so much that we all have in common, you know? So maybe like starting from that place. I want to see more of those conversations across the aisle or whatever have you, know, like conversations that start with people like, this is what we have in common, this is our common goal, and just like really being in that space together, maybe without even, you know, any agenda to like change anything or get anybody to change anyone's mind, to just like come together a bit with this, with the idea of just
unity.
Yeah.
I think we all need to sit in Vipassana for 10 days, and then
no problem.
We'll realize how much we have in common, how much our butts hurt from sitting that long in meditation.
Yeah.
You know,
I prescribe for humanity. Everybody, Vipassana.
Yeah. So Erin, are you going to be running trips to Nepal in 2021, 2022? Is that happening? Is that on the schedule for you? If this speaks to anyone who's watching this replay, I just want to say, if you're a helper, if you're in the medical field, you know, this is a great opportunity to go and serve and learn about local cultures and traditions and the local plants and medicines and things like that, and just to talk about shaken out of your comfort zone. A great opportunity. Are you going to be running any more trips to Nepal?
Yeah, we're gonna, not this year, because we're getting married this year.
Congrats!
Just filled right up, and also, so in 2022 we're gonna pick up annual trips again. There's another, you guys can find me at Participate Nepal. I think it's linked in my bio or something, but there's another profile you can follow. But yeah, we love to work with heart-centered practitioners, particularly those trained in natural medicine or with an interest in learning about it. Plant medicine and nutrition are really our focuses.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to include a link to you and to Participate in this video when it goes up.
Cool.
And everyone, you can find Erin by clicking on her bio and following her Facebook group. please tell me again what the name of the Facebook group is. That you can find it through her bio, but just in case, what is the name again of the Facebook?
The Heart Healing Sisterhood.
Heart, I love it. Okay, the Heart Healing Sisterhood. So, thank you so much, Dr. Erin, for being on this Instagram Live with me. I'm just so excited to see what you continue to bring to this world, what kind of magic and love and leadership and healing you bring. So thank you so much, sister, for being here, and I wish you a beautiful day.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to chat and to share this space with you. You and your little puppy dog have a wonderful day too.
All right. Thanks, Erin.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.